Right. Great, guys. So I'm Scott Weir. I'm based in California. I was over in the Bay Area for a while, but now back down in Southern California. I see that we have people even over in the Netherlands, so that's awesome. I am the Coda Guy. I do all things Coda. I've been working in and with Coda since they were in early private beta, back when you had to like apply for an account. You couldn't just get one. So I've been experimenting with and building on Coda for a long, long time now. So my goal today is not necessarily to teach you how to automate a newsletter, because not many people need to necessarily do that. But my goal is really to teach you and kind of show you what kind of platform Coda is and some different ways to kind of stretch it and grow it. And even if you know Coda, I'm hoping that you'll find just some different kind of cool tricks, things you didn't know before. But I think automating a newsletter is a general enough like context that we can learn within that. So as you go, I'll be looking at the chat as well. If you have questions, please put them in. I'll either answer them kind of while I'm building. I'm going to build live in front of you a doc from scratch. And then I'll either answer them while I'm building or we'll answer them at the end, kind of whatever is more appropriate. So first off, let's go. We're going to start. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it. If you could give like a thumbs up in the chat or something, that would be fantastic. You should see like an endless mirror right now. And now you should see a Google tab. Going back, can anybody see that? Are we good to go? I got some reactions. Art reacted yes. Okay.
Yep,
Stop.
we can see it. Yep.
So what I'm going to do is there's a little shortcut you can do if you have. You can say coda.new. It's one of my favorite things, and it just instantly starts a new Coda doc within your account. So this is what Coda looks like when you open it up. It's a canvas. We call it a canvas. This is just like Word, Microsoft Word. I can type anything I want here. Right? And so I can create Word documents or project proposals or things to people. So this is the first main aspect that Coda has, is the canvas. I can have many different pages over here to hold and structure my information as I want. But the other main data type within Coda are tables. So I can insert those with my trusty / command. I'm going to insert a table. Okay. So that's the basics of what Coda is. Coda is, if you're similar, it's similar in some ways to Notion. It's similar in some ways to Airtable as well, and it's holding databases, specifically relational databases. But I'll kind of show you that as we go through, as I make this newsletter. So our goal is to automate a newsletter to 1,000 people. So first, what we're going to do is make our 2 different tables. So we're going to hold 2 tables within Coda. The first table is going to be simply called newsletters. Newsletters. So I get to title that. I'm going to title my table as well, BB Newsletters. Hopefully I spell that right. And of course, as you're going to give out, yes,
I don't know if you could just zoom in just a hair. That might help, at least on my end. That's just a little far out. Yeah, that I think that helped. That's going to help a lot.
That's a hair. Got it. Awesome. So I'm going to name that. I'm going to name, obviously, when we create a newsletter, we're sending more than one. We're going to send multiple. So let's send 35 today. We're going to call these round. So I need to create, if I'm going to send 35 newsletters, I need to create 35 rows. I can create those via this, but Coda is wonderful and allows us to take actions in bulk via buttons. So I'm going to create 35 rows in my table right now. With a button. So again, / command is how you're always going to enter things. I'm going to say I want a button, and then I get to define what I want this button to do. You don't have to name it, but I want it to add 35 rows to my table below me. So what I'm going to do is I can create actions from bulk. Like I can say add row, modify rows, copy this doc. There's so many things that I can do, but I can also define my action myself by pressing that formula button. And what I want to do is create 35 rows. So first, I'm going to create a list of 35 numbers. And then I'm going to run a formula on that called for each, which is actually new. But what do I want to do? So now it's saying I got 35 numbers. What do I want to do for each one of those? I'm going to add a row to newsletters. And that's it. So now my button should be able to add 35 rows to my table. It added 36 since there was one already there. So this is going to be my basic newsletters. Newsletters, of course, are emails. They also need a subject and they need a body. So I'm going to have a subject and a body there. Now, before I do anything else, though, I need to define my rounds, right? I could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. get those all the way down, but of course that gets tedious over a while. So Coda, the basics of Coda are formulas, right? So I'm going to add a formula to this column. I can either go column type and then I can go all the way down to formula. But a shortcut for you is just selecting the actual column and pressing the equal button on your keyboard. That opens it right up. So what I'm going to do now is, again, I want to number these. This is going to be important later for identifying like who gets what email at one time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this table dot find this row. What that's going to do is essentially say, hey, out of this entire table, what row is this? Is it the first row? Is it the second row? Is it the third row? Like, what row is it? And that will automatically number my table for me. There we go. So now I have my rounds. I'm going to give a few subjects. Let's just say this is welcome to the newsletter. Subject 2 is welcome back. Thanks for being here, right? So I'm going to define my subjects here, and then I'm going to define my body later. So we'll come back to this in a bit. But this is my first table that I need, newsletters. The other table and the only other table we're going to need is people, right? The people we want to send it to. I'm going to add a little icon, make it a little pretty. And we're going to create our people table. Once again, I pop it open with my slash command table. I want a blank table. And what I want, DB people. I always call them DB, the main tables that I create, because that is a database, DB database of people. Later, we can create views of these, but I love naming the original table as a database. Our people is, of course, going to have different kind of fields. We've got name. We're going to have their email, of course. We're going to have the round that they're on. And then we're also going to have their target newsletter based off of their round. So let's get a couple people in here. My name is Scott, and my last name is Weir. My email is scott@simplidocs.com. What's beautiful about that is that Coda recognizes right away. It kind of tries to guess your column type. It was like, oh, that was an email. I'm going to make this an email column type. We have also got Mickey Mouse, Mickey at Disney.com. Who knows if that's a real one, right? We're going to go for that, and we'll go for Darth Vader. Why not? Unless anyone wants to volunteer themselves. Darth@darkside.com. All right. So now these are our people, our individuals, but of course, individuals will come in over time. You may have people, sign up for your newsletter a week from now, or you may have people sign up for your newsletter 3 weeks from now. So you always want them to start on the first round, right? The moment they get into this table, you want them to receive the first newsletter. So what I'm going to say is for round column, I'm going to give a value for new rows, aka every time there's a new row in here, let's give it a value of 1. Okay. So now, no matter what happens, right, if this person is already on round 15, they've been in the newsletter for a while, but then Joe Schmo comes in. Joe Schmo, right? He starts on round 1 because every time that comes in. So these are the rounds. These are identifying what newsletter they're going to get. Now we need to somehow pull that out. So again, Coda is a relational database. Relational meaning we're going to take 2 tables and relate their information together. So I'm going to pull in, just so you can see what's happening, a view of my newsletters. So instead of creating a blank table, I'm just going to connect it to my newsletters so you can see this. And what I'm going to do now is essentially, right, if Mickey Mouse is on round 15, we would want him to have the 15th newsletter. So how I'm going to relate these is via a formula. The formula that we're going to use is called filter. It is absolutely the most important formula you can learn in Coda. So once again, I press the equal sign to open up my formula editor for this column. And I'm going to say what I want in this column is the newsletter dot filter. So, hey, go look into the newsletters table and find a certain row. I've got to define what kind of row I want. Right? I can do all sorts of stuff in here. I can say where subject is not blank, right? So then it's returning, oh, rows 1, 2, and 15 don't have a blank subject, right? But obviously don't want that. I want to find where the round is equal to round. So now I can tell too here, these colors are really important. This color matches, that green matches with the green. That's saying this is the round from, the newsletter. And this pink one, I can see this is coming from this row dot round. So that's coming from this table. So that, I'm now going to say one more thing first. And there we go. So now I'm pulling out a target newsletter based off their current round. So if I change this to round 2, you'll see that that changes to round 2. If I change this to round 10, that'll change that to round 10. What this little like bubbly chip thing, I call them object chips. Essentially, they are a small chip that holds the value of the entire row. So this, if we say this is the body, I can hover over this and I can see, oh, there's the subject and there's the body, right? This is a chip that holds the value of the entire row. But I also want these values. I can pull these values out of that chip by making some other columns. So we're going to say the subject, and this is the body that they're going to be sent. Once again, I'm going to press my equal button, and I'm going to say target newsletter. So now I'm referencing that row, and I want to pull the values out of it, right? There's values inside there. How you pull it out in Coda is called chaining. Chaining is done with a period, and now I have other things applicable to me, right? So from this target newsletter, what do I want? I want the subject. Right, 15th newsletter. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the newsletter. And my body is going to be target newsletter.body. So I've got the rough structure. We're gonna show you now how to like start to stylize your emails, to send these, to do a lot of automation pieces within here. But just I'll pause for a brief sec in case anybody has some questions. And Art, I'm counting on you to let me know because I can't see anything. All right, I'm going to take the silence. It's time to move on. There's some other really cool column types within Coda. And one of those that we're going to do for our body is called the canvas. So I'm going to take a canvas type. That turns it into a little bubble. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to also turn this table, just to make it a little prettier. I'm going to turn this table into something called cards. So now I've got now these newsletters are like little chips, right? I can view any newsletter that I want. I can add some formatting just to make it look a little bit better. In between, we'll make that like that, right? So now I can come in and I can say, okay, I want to modify or I want to create the first newsletter. I'm going to come in, and this is where my body's going to go. You can edit how these things look as well to make them look a little bit different if you'd like. You can type in like descriptions and things. I'm going to say enter the entire newsletter body here. Great. And now I'm ready to write my newsletter. Within here, right, it's essentially like a Microsoft Word document, like a Google Doc. I can add headings. Say welcome. Right, and then hey there, welcome to the newsletter. I can do anything I want here. I can add in images, I can add in links, I can bold, highlight, I can center text, right? So as far as you want to stylize this email, you can do so. Welcome to the newsletter. But what I really want to show you is how this is going to, again, individualize this. So let's just take, for example, the person's name. Coda has the ability to kind of individualize or personalize these newsletters. So I'm going to do that with a bracket. We call it brackets or squigglies. I call them squiggly numbers, right? Hey there, your email is, and I'm going to put another squiggly, right? So I'm saying I essentially want to take 2 pieces of custom information from each individual and input it into my newsletter, okay? So let's go look at that. Let's set these people back to 1, just so we can see them all come together. You'll now see that their body is filling here, right? But now I want to take their information because this should say, hey there, Darth Vader. Your email is Darth@darkside. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to create another column. You could do it in the same column, but for the sake of clarity, I'll create a new one and call this a formatted body. I'm going to, again, press my equal sign. I'm going to use a formula called format. And it's going to take essentially a template and then a text. The template that I want is, of course, my body. And then now, whatever I put here is going to go into the number 1 space. So if I just put dog, each email will say, hey there, dog. But of course, I don't want to take static information. I want to take information from this row. So I'm going to take name. And then in the second squiggly, I want to put email, right? So now each email newsletter would say, hey there, Scott Weir. Your email is scott@simplidocs.com. You can take this even further, right? Like if you don't want just the name, I can reformat name. I can take just the first name. For example, if I do this, now it's going to say, hey there, Scott. What I did was take the name and I split it on a blank space. So that's saying, hey, take the name value, find the blank spaces and create a new list, right? And then from that new list, I can take a value. I can take the last value in that list. Now it says, hey there, Weir, or, right, hey there, Weir, hey there, Mouse, hey there, Vader. Or I can take, of course, the first, which is what I actually want. So Coda is, you can do as many things as you want within here. You can do if statements, like conditional statements. So you could say in the first spot, if they have a first name, put name. If not, put email, right? You can kind of endlessly format your emails as you need them to be. Next, we need to be able to send these emails. So what I'm going to do is Coda has something called packs. Packs are essentially Coda's way of integrating with other services. So if I go up here to insert, I can say packs, and packs there are so many of them, right? A lot of these are the ones I use a lot, but we've got Bitly, Canvas. You'll see actually a lot of these are ones that I've built. But there are hundreds and hundreds of packs and more adding by the day, tons for popular services. Of course, we want to send emails, so we are going to find the Gmail pack. Right now, the only email packs are Gmail and Outlook. So if you use Outlook, Microsoft Outlook Mail, but I use Gmail, so I'm going to find my Gmail pack. I'm going to say, yeah, I want to add this to my doc and sign in. And I say, oh, yep, if others come to this doc, they're going to have to sign in with their own account, not me. So now that my Gmail pack is here, right, there's a lot of things I can do with it. I can take and I can see my messages, my threads, but what I'm interested in buttons, because I want to do this. I want to send an email. So I'm going to create another column. I'm going to call it a button. Buttons are a lot of actions. Again, you've seen them in the beginning, but right now I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and say packs, Gmail, send email. Now I get to kind of determine what the email looks like. And of course, it's going to be equal to, once I'm in these fields, as you've seen before, I can type in static information, or I can press the equal button and say, I want to send it to whatever email is in this row. The subject is going to be whatever subject is in this row. And the content is going to be equal to my formatted body. The last thing you want to do when you are working with a Gmail pack, it's kind of hidden. If I send this right now, this is live, it will send to my email if I just click that button. It's going to send a little, send with this Coda doc, a nice little fun thing. But obviously you don't want that. So we're going to say add more, hide signature, and now it won't send any sort of sent with Coda dealio. Next, email. All right. So now these buttons are actually live. If I press those buttons, I would start receiving emails. But there's one other thing, right? Because if I send Scott the first email, what I want to happen is after that, I want him to go up around. So the next time he gets an email, he gets number 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another button. And I'm going to call it incrementor. I'm going to increment or move this number up every time. And what action do I want? I'm going to modify rows. This row, I want to change the round to be equal to whatever is currently end round plus 1. Okay, so now if I press this button, you'll see that it takes those values and continues to count up every single time, right? So now I've got kind of the raw structure to make this happen, but the last thing I want to do, and I'm going to actually put this all in one button. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make this all happen from one button. So I'm going to go back in here. I formatted this nicely. I can turn this into a formula, right? Now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to copy this all. And I'm going to say, what do I want this button to do? I want this button to do a couple things. I want it to run actions. So what are the multiple things I want this button to do? The first thing is paste, send an email, right? Comma. What's the second thing I want this to do? I want this to modify rows. This row, so I want it to change this row after it sends an email. And what value do I want it to change? I want it to change rounds. And I want it to change it to round plus 1. Coda also, eventually you can write really, really, really long formulas. If they start to get really long, you can expand it and you can format it. That just allows you to start seeing your formulas a little bit more easily. I'm going to say done. Now that this button exists within here, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to call this send email, and increment our move up round. Woohoo! All right, let's get a nice little icon in there just to make it pretty. So now this button will send this email and it will increment the round. Let's see if that works. Boom. So one row modified and one external action performed. So if I opened up my email right now, I'd have that, which I'm not going to do because you'll see all my other emails. That's a little weird. But the last thing you want to do, of course, you don't want to have to come in and press these buttons. So the last thing you're going to set, Coda has automations. It's up in this little cog wheel at the top. Automations, add rules. So I'm going to say send all emails. And I want this to send at time-based. I'll say I'll send it every Monday and Friday at 9 a.m. Select action. I'm going to push buttons. And the button I'm going to push is this send email button on. So now if I was turning that on, now I have a fully automated system. The last pieces that I'd have to do really is just to come in here and really set and define what my newsletters are. But I've created a fully automated system to essentially send as many newsletters as I want to as many people as I want. And that's it. So now I'm going to come back and see, hopefully you guys hear my daughter screaming out there. I think she just broke something.
Hopefully she's okay. Feel free to check in on things if you need to. Coming from me and having some experience with Coda, that just got, every time I thought you were done, I was like, oh, this is cool, but I have to hit a button every time. You took it to the next level, combining the buttons and then adding the automation. So super cool. I definitely learned some new Coda tricks and some formula things that I wasn't aware of. But this isn't about me. I was just sharing sort of my experience from that. But yeah, who has some questions? Are there any questions that anyone want to ask in the chat? This would be the time to do so. But while we're waiting, very cool. Someone says, Alan, thank you, Alan. While we're waiting to see if anyone has a question, maybe just make sure everyone is familiar with how to contact you if they want to reach out to you. Here's a question here. How can contacts subscribe and come to this list? For example, if I send a subscribe to our newsletter campaign.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways you can make that happen, right? Essentially, your only goal is to get a email address into that table. Coda has another. I'll share my screen real fast. Share screen. All right. So Coda has another thing, and you can maybe just call it the subscribe form. Essentially, tables are really flexible, right? I can make a table, and I'll call this the subscribe form. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to make a subscribe form. I'm just going to create a view of my people column already. But now, instead of just having this as a table, I'm going to come over here. I can do cards, detail views, calendar. I can also do it as a form. And then I can make this form. I can edit it. So I can have get their name, their email. I can call it subscribe to our email newsletter. And then, of course, they don't need to see that or that or that or that or that or that. And they don't need to see Coda branding. We could add a little cover just for funsies. Choose from Unsplash. We'll put some boxed water there. I'll create a link to publish this. Copy link. All right, there we go. And now I have an external link that I can, embed in a website. I could put in a button. I could share on Twitter. I could do whatever I want with that. I can share that. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds to be totally live, but I'll share it in the chat. You guys can go on that right now. Anyone can without a Coda account, and you'll show up in this newsletter thing. So feel free to go fill that out. Let's see if I can show what that would look like, though, for those of you who don't want to fill it out. There we go. So this is what it would look like to individuals, and you can put in your name. My name is going to be Art, and I'm going to be art@nocodedevs.com. Submit. And now, thanks. Your response has been submitted. We should come back here, and look, we got two arts because I sent one and Art did one. So that's one way. That's a really easy way you can do it again with just Coda, is create a form view, but you can also, of course, do that with Typeform. You can do that with JotForm. You can do that with all sorts of other packs. There's packs for JotForm. There's packs for Paperform. There's packs for Tally forms. And there's packs for Typeform. So if you use a different form to collect email addresses, you could essentially bring that information directly into Coda and actually build your people table off of a form table instead. So lots of different ways. Good question, though.
Yeah, that was great. You can use either the native forms in Coda or a form pack if you prefer. Now I'm adding to the baby noise. Okay, he says, Muhammad says, okay, and I can implement this into the body.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? What would you want to implement into the body?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of thinking like that they're already subscribed if they're on the list, but maybe if you could obviously put the link to the Coda form right in the body of the email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can just hard code that into when you're in the. I always stop sharing the screen to come look back at things. But yeah, once you're on your newsletters, you can essentially pop that open and you can hard code whatever you need in here. Newsletter link, right? And you could then choose to put a link there, hard code in there, do whatever you like. But feel free, Mohammed, if that didn't answer your question or if you meant something different by putting that into the email body, feel free to, of course, let us know.
Any other questions at all? Yeah, so maybe if you just want to share how to get in touch with you, and we'll wrap it up.
Sure, yeah. Best way to get in touch with me is get in touch. Can you guys still see my screen? Hopefully. One of the best ways is just Twitter. I'm at the Coda Guy. Another way, you can email me directly. I am Scott at simplidocs.com. Simplidocs is my kind of consulting firm, so we do all things Coda. We help small to medium businesses kind of leverage and use Coda to automate processes and to honestly just save money over time. So you can also see us at simplidocs.com. And lastly, we're also creating a Coda school, so kind of an A to Z Coda course. You can learn anything you like, and that's simply codaschool.io. So the best ways to get in contact: Twitter, emailing, and then you can visit our more consulting site or sign up for our upcoming A to Z Coda course.
Awesome. That was great. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Scott.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Adios.